The classroom erupted in screams before I even reached the door. A glass beaker shattered across the tiled floor, shards spraying like glittering daggers. Miss Blake's eyes blazed with fury as she lunged at Lucas, my lanky classmate, wrenching him backward by the collar. "You insolent brats!" she roared, her voice echoing off the walls. Books tumbled from desks. Mia screamed. I froze, heart hammering, because I knew this was only the beginning.
Alakaztra Fairy Folktales.
I never thought my final year at St. Augustine's High would end like this. My name is Chloe Knight. I'm 19 and I've always been model student material. Top of the class, prefect's badge pinned on my blazer, dreams of medical school. Yet here I was, knees unsteady, watching my teacher, my mentor, turn into something I could barely recognize. It started months ago when Miss Victoria Blake joined our school. Tall, elegant, with skin the color of polished mahogany. She seemed custom made for the chalk-dusted podium. Rumors flew. She had taught abroad. She spoke 5 languages. Her lessons were legendary. "She'll make or break this school," whispered Ava, my desk mate, as we watched Miss Blake stride through the corridor in her crisp skirt suit. She did both. Her chemistry lectures were magical, bubbling experiments, jokes that made elements dance, pop quizzes so fair we actually looked forward to them. But the cracks came when she graded our lab reports with an almost religious zeal. A single typo earned red ink every time. Then came the whispers of favoritism. Ethan and I aced everything. Lucas and Mia struggled under her glare. At first, I blamed stress, new teacher, final exams, university applications, but strange things began to happen. Lucas's textbook would go missing, then reappear shredded. Mia, usually chatty, grew pale and silent. Rumors spread of late-night detention, but the office log showed nothing. The principal shrugged when I asked, unwilling to question the star educator. I tried to focus on my college essays. My father, Pastor Knight, expected me to save lives, not sniff out school scandals. But the tension in our community was rising. Parents complaining at PTA meetings, students sneaking into classrooms after hours, shivering in fear of what might happen if Miss Blake caught them slacking. It was during midterms that things truly spiraled. One afternoon, I found a note slipped under my locker. "Trust no one, not even her," signed with a tiny drawing of a raven. My heart raced. Was someone warning me or taunting me? I stuffed it in my bag and pretended not to notice. 3 weeks before exams, I caught Miss Blake rifling through my private file in the teacher's lounge. I'd gone to drop off my project proposal only to see her seated at the desk where I never expected a teacher to linger. My school records, birth certificate, recommendation letters, even my medical history spread before her like a private dossier. She flipped through pages with a frown, then ripped out one sheet and crumpled it. I backed away, heart thudding. She snapped the file shut and stared at me. "Chloe, what are you doing here?" she asked, voice oddly gentle. I mumbled an excuse and fled. That night, I lay in bed, imagining what was missing from my file. My secret volunteer hours, my childhood diary. Why was she so interested? Determined to know the truth, I recruited Ethan, my lab partner and genuine friend. We waited until midnight, slipped into the deserted school under the moon's pale gaze, and crept down the corridor to Miss Blake's classroom. The door was locked, so I picked the lock with a bobby pin, shaking with adrenaline. Inside, chemical samples bubbled in Erlenmeyer flasks under a single lamp. Charts of hormones, DNA sequences, even brain scans were pinned to the walls. My breath caught. These weren't chemistry notes. They were medical records. Dozens of them, all anonymous, but the dates matched recent absences. She'd been running tests on students without permission. At that moment, a soft footstep behind me made me spin around. Miss Blake stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes unreadable. Curiosity can be dangerous, Chloe, she whispered. Then she stepped forward and slammed the door shut. I tried to speak, but my voice caught in my throat. Ethan stepped up. "What are you doing with these?" he demanded. "You have no right." Miss Blake's lips curved into a small, sad smile. "You're right, I have no right, but I'm doing this for you." She held out a syringe filled with pale blue liquid. "I'm making you better," I thought. She jabbed Ethan's arm and he staggered as a wave of calm washed over him. "No!" I screamed, lunging forward. She pushed me away easily and forced him to drink another vial. His eyes went distant. "You see, Chloe," she said softly, "I can cure all your problems." I realized then that Miss Blake wasn't just cruel. She was delusional. She believed she was some kind of savior, experimenting on us without consent. My stomach twisted. We had to stop her before she hurt someone else. By dawn, Ethan was unconscious in the infirmary. Codeine overdose, according to the nurse. I knew better. I raced to Ava's house. She was the only other student who hadn't fallen under Miss Blake's spell. Mia refused to talk. She'd stopped leaving her house. Lucas was too frightened to come forward. I realized I was alone. I had to go public. At lunch, I stood on a desk in the cafeteria and screamed, "Everyone listen, Miss Blake is experimenting on us." Gasps rippled through the room. A dozen students rushed forward with similar stories. Seizures in class, missing nights, phone calls from unknown numbers, warning them to stay silent. The principal came storming in. Parents poured into the school. I lifted a tablet showing photos of the lab, charts, syringes, file pages. Miss Blake appeared, radiant in her white coat, and raised her hands. "This is not what it seems," she said calmly. "I am here to help you. You ingrate children. You don't appreciate true talent." Her words hit me like cold water. I stepped forward. "I appreciated you until I saw what you did to Ethan," I said, holding back tears. "Is this how you teach? By turning us into lab rats?" A local news crew arrived. Phones buzzed nonstop. Hashtags trended. "Stop Miss Blake." My story splashed across websites. "Top student exposes rogue teacher." I gave interviews, my voice shaky but determined. Ava held my hand off camera, giving me strength. Miss Blake was suspended pending investigation. DNA tests proved those blood samples belonged to students. The vials were labeled subject tests. Parents wept. Students hugged. I felt a surge of relief. Justice was finally within reach. On the day of her hearing, I waited outside the boardroom. Reporters whispered, parents clutched petitions. I rehearsed my testimony. Then I saw Zoe, my best friend since primary school, slip past the crowd, holding a small flash drive. She caught my eye, smiled, and slipped it into my bag. Zoe had been distant lately, secret calls, hushed meetings, but I thought she was worried. When my name was called, I stood before the panel and laid out everything I knew. The board nodded gravely. Miss Blake's pale face betrayed no emotion. After I finished, Miss Blake spoke quietly. "I did what I thought was right, but Chloe Knight, you led the charge." Her eyes locked onto mine. "And you didn't even notice who pushed you." My heart stuttered. "What do you mean?" I whispered after she was escorted away. That night, I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. Inside was a folder labeled evidence, but not what I expected. Photos of Zoe meeting with Lucas, text chains showing Zoe coaching him to pretend seizures. Emails from Zoe to Mr. Sterling, our vice principal, asking for classroom keys and lab access. A video of Zoe slipping the note under my locker. "Trust no one, not even her." I stared in disbelief. Zoe's betrayal cut deeper than any syringe. She had orchestrated the entire expose, subtle whispers, forged documents, even the staged lab break-in. She'd manipulated me into gathering proof so she could take down Miss Blake and slate her own path to the top. A message popped up on my screen from Zoe. Thanks for doing the hard work, Chloe. Now everyone will owe me. My hands trembled. I realized the real evil wasn't just in Miss Blake's experiments. It lurked in those we trusted most. The next morning, I met Zoe at our old oak tree behind the school. She greeted me with that easy smile, but her eyes were cold. You heard about Miss Blake? She asked, flipping her hair. I know what you did, I said, voice barely steady. You set her up, and me. My words hovered between us like thunder. Zoe's smile faltered for a moment, then she shrugged. She was never part of our plan, but you were perfect, smart, brave, oblivious. Thanks to you, I have the support of the board, the parents, everyone. I felt my world tilt. Why? I whispered. Because I want what you have, she said. Your grades, your awards, your future, and I'll do anything to get there. Tears pricked my eyes. I realized that high school politics were as cruel as any experiment. I gathered my bag and turned to leave, then paused. Don't think I'll let you get away with this, I said softly. Zoe laughed low and sharp. Try and stop me. I walked away under the morning sun, my heart heavy yet strangely clear. I'd exposed the world's most evil teacher and uncovered an even darker secret in the person I called my best friend. As I stepped into the hallway, other students whispered, Chloe, you're a hero. But I hardly felt like one, because sometimes the greatest betrayals come from those who smile at you every day. And I knew this wasn't over. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this.